Medicine, University. I'm Shania, and I'll be taking you through today's proceedings. So, if this is your first time joining in, the objective of this project is to help you smoothly transition from being a schooler to a holistic undergraduate. Because between having no time for what you can study and an unlimited amount of things you can study can be a real challenge, I know. And there's a rather steep learning curve in adjusting to this new dynamic, and that's where we come in. So with this objective in mind, we kicked off the project last week with its first session, where Professor Saroj shared his pearls on how to learn right. Today, we will be focusing on building good habits and dropping the bad ones. We believe that adapting good habits is key and vital in making studying and learning enjoyable, while also saving you time for other things in life. So the resource person for today's discussion is a personality I'm honored to introduce. Professor Priyanjali D'Souza is a clinical psychologist by profession and a professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the Faculty of Medicine in the University of Colombo. I hope you guys can hear me. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, madam. She graduated from the University of Delhi, India, with a bachelor's and a master's degree. Her doctorate was from the University of Colombo. She co-founded only postgraduate professional clinical psychology training program at the University of Colombo. Furthermore, she is also the founding president of the Sri Lanka Psychological Association. Madam, the mic is over to you.
Thank you, Shania. Okay. Thank you, Priyat and Shania, for inviting me to talk to you about something that is also like really close to my heart, about changing ourselves for the better. So the plan really is that I will be talking to you all till 6:45 or so, subsequent to which we'll take some questions. Isn't that right, Shania?
Yes, madam.
Am I audible and like visually okay?
Yes, madam. Everything's good.
So if in case if something happens to the internet connection, just let me know. Just interrupt me.
All right, madam.
Thank you. Okay. So these are my slides. So today we're going to talk about habits, because we know that habits are, what research has shown is that in a given day, in a human being's life, 40% of what we do, minimum 40%, but it could be certainly more, is just habits. So what are habits? Habits are just this routine, repetitive way of thinking and speaking and behaving. So it's about action. It's about what comes out of our mouth, that is speaking, and also our thinking styles. So for example, if it is always that you get up from the bed in the morning and just absent-mindedly go to the washroom, it's very unlikely that one fine day you get up in the morning and then go and have 1 liter of water, because that's really good for your health. Because all this time you've been just absent-minded going to the washroom instead. So, or if you were a kind of person who always thought that things are not going to work out for me, I'm just going to be a failure. However much I study, I don't think I'm going to pass my exam too well. However attractive I am, maybe I will not be able to attract somebody who really loves me. If that's the way you've been thinking, it's quite unlikely that if you do not put effort to change these habitual ways of doing, speaking, and thinking, that you will just out of the blue one fine day change. So therefore, if you need to put some effort, if you want to change your life, which means you have to change your habits. And there are ways to do that. You can change yourself, you can change your habits, and people have done that since time immemorial. So some of the habits that we may have are, for example, the way you eat. Maybe there are people who don't eat breakfast at all. They just start off with lunch at 12 o'clock and they eat until late night. Or what do you eat? Maybe you're a person who loves to have lots of vegetables and fruit, or you're a person who just drinks soft drinks and have lots of meat and have a lot of junk food. That's a habitual thing. So it's very unlikely that one fine day you just get up and start eating peppers and green leaves unless you do something to change your mental set. Then maybe you have a habitual way of putting off things. You're a procrastinator until the very last moment where everybody alongside you is in a rush because you're about to meet a deadline which you should have met 2 weeks ago. So how you manage your anger, maybe habitually, the moment somebody thinks differently to you or speaks in a way that doesn't resonate with you or acts in a way that doesn't resonate with you, you just fly off the handle. And that's what you've been doing for years. So if you have to not fly off the handle, you just won't do that one fine day. You need to do something to yourself, to change yourself. So the question really comes is that, can we change? And is there any part of our brain that research have indicated is associated with changing of habits? And good for us, we do know that in the brain, a particular entity called the basal ganglia, which I'm sure all the medical students here and who know sciences will be very familiar with this, is the key structure that is associated with learning new habits. For example, we know that just general information wise, we know that the basal ganglia is very important in learning, particularly learning the relationship between what happens outside of us and our motor response. So for example, we are very happily walking along the road and suddenly somebody just screams from the other side. Now, if you had learned over the years that when somebody screams or something traumatic happens or something unexpected happens, that you would also run away, that's exactly what you would do habitually at that given moment, because that's what you learned. So you would act on it without even thinking, because habits are very subconscious based. So your brain have learned that by trial and error and through feedback. Because maybe as a young person, when you were a child, you learned that when something unexpected happens, like a scream, you need to get out of there fast because you need to secure yourself. So you learned it, and through your adolescence and young adulthood, you learned it trial by trial by trial, and you just now habitually put that into action. So habits are formed in this way through the strengthening of certain neural networks, particularly in the basal ganglia, but of course, knowing our human brain, the most complex structure that we have, other neural systems are also involved. So therefore, the good thing and the fun thing about research on basal ganglia is that though we may have very hardwired habits that we have learned over and over again, and where those neural pathways have got strengthened over years of usage, it can be changed. So now what I'm going to talk to you about is how you could create good habits so that you could be a better version of yourself than what you are now, okay? Now, the first thing about creating habits is that you need to have insight to want to change. So if you don't have insight, I mean, if you think that you are God's gift to mankind, womankind, insect kind, humankind, plant kind, and every kind, you don't want to change. You might be thinking everybody else should change, like your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your batchmate or your mother and your mother-in-law. That's what most people want to change other people. But only when you know, like, hey, I need to change myself. I'm not really happy being this person. I'm not happy being this anxious person. I'm not happy being the person who sleeps till 9 o'clock in the morning and then gets off the bed like a zombie. I'm not happy being a person who's flirting with everybody who comes my way. I'm not happy being a person who only eats kotte roti and fried food. Only if you have that insight that I need to change, you will be involved and putting effort to do that. And once you have that insight, the second stage is that you need to also realize that the advantages of change greatly outweighs disadvantage. I remember when I was a young person, I used to hate exercise. That is really not my thing at all. I dislike sweating. I can't understand why people kind of run around and jog and do all sorts of things. I have other things to do. So when you're younger, because our body metabolism is fine and the body is kept in shape. But after some time, when you hit your late 20s and early 30s and then onwards, you realize youth metabolism is not with you anymore. You need to do something about it. And then you see the weight gains and the clothes doesn't fit really well, and then certain blood pictures aren't exactly what you want it to be. Now you start seeing the disadvantages of being non-fitness oriented. So and the advantages is much lesser. So disadvantages of not being fitness oriented starts becoming prominent. That is when the motivation is there. So you see, sometimes people say, I wish I can change. I wish I can be more calm. I wish I can eat healthy. I wish I can study more hours. I wish I can be kinder. They wish. They do have some insight, but they still believe that the advantages of their not so good habits is higher than the disadvantages. So as long as you think that there are advantages of you not changing, you won't have sufficient motivation. Sometimes people come and say, I want to up my motivation. I want to be motivated, but I'm not. So what do I do about it? How do I energize myself to be motivated to maybe get into a fitness program, maybe to be a kinder person to my parents and my loved ones, maybe to be a kinder person to myself rather than be riddled with guilt and shame and negative self-talk. How do I do that? One activity that you can do right now is to write a 15 to 30 minute time period of my best possible self. So just take a piece of paper. It's always better to write pen to paper than writing on some tab or some mobile phone device, because when you are with a pen and a paper, it's much more personal than typing on somewhere. So you can just write, how do you see yourself? What kind of person would you be proud of? And your ideal person, your best possible person, the best possible version. Recently, last week, I did that for myself. At this age, being a psychologist too, I would still do these activities for myself. And I wrote it, and when I wrote it, one of the things I want to do is to really to eat healthier and to do less junk and to go more fit. And of course, this idea came because I went to see Batman and Catwoman, and I was very motivated when I saw Batman's extreme fitness. And I thought, that's something that I would like to have, not Batman's body, but fit as Batman kind of a thing. And that came part of my best possible self. So I do more fitness stuff. So, and I would also like to be kinder to myself. So I included that all in my best possible self write-up. So when you write something like that, you see how separate and how distant your present self is from what you envisage for yourself. And that can bring up effort and motivation. So that's a little exercise you can do if you really want to up your self-confidence. Usually, for highly ingrained negative habits, what really prompts someone to change is after some trauma. Like, for example, if you're a person who drives really fast, like, for example, I'm a person who drives really fast. Anything like a highway, I'm just about to break the speed limit kind of a thing, kind of a person. And recently, because I was driving like this, there was some incident which really gave me such a shock, such a mental strain, that it just immediately made me change my driving habits. So usually what happens is that if we encounter a huge trauma, like an accident or a death of a loved one, and that some way is related to our negative habits, that huge psychic shock can make you want to change. But otherwise, if you want to change other habits, you really need to up your motivation, either to your own self or doing some exercise like my best possible self writer. So say you are sufficiently motivated. I'm sure persons who are listening to this is motivated, and that's why some of you are here. When you set goals for your change, make sure that they're tiny, tiny sub-goals where you can't say no. So for example, if you're a kind of person who hasn't seen green leaves for like 3 months because you just don't like green leaves, or you are a person, the moment you see fruits, you remember the hellish realms or some kind of thing like that. But now you realize, I really got to do something because my skin is not looking that great and my body is not feeling very happy about it. Don't think from tomorrow onwards, I shall go vegetarian, I shall eat pepper morning, day and night, I'll have green smoothie and kanji for the night, because you can't do that, because you don't like it. So instead, have a tiny, tiny sub-goal, which is like, I'll have quarter piece of pepper in the morning, and that's it. Where you can't say no, because quarter piece of pepper is really tiny, and you can do it. So therefore, make tiny, tiny goals. The problem with many people is they say, from tomorrow, I shall study 8 hours. Okay, tomorrow you might do it, but day after tomorrow, even the 2 hours you studied, you won't do because you're so stressed out of studying 8 hours a day before. So increase your goals also in tiny, tiny bits, because then you don't feel it. They're called mini habits. Don't do major stuff. So if you're going to make food changes, quarter piece of pepper for 1 week. That's all. The remaining time, you might be doing your kottu roti and all the junk food. Next week, maybe you can do quarter piece of pepper and 1 banana in the evening. Tiny, tiny goals where you can't say no, and tiny, tiny increments. If it's about, you're managing your anger, thinking habit, and usually you get into a fuse whenever a friend calls you when you're studying and you just blast her. You would instead, for this week, you would decide that when I'm studying, I would put my mobile phone off for the first half hour so that I don't have to respond. You won't put your mobile off throughout your study period in the day, but just for half an hour. So little incremental goals. And as you go on, these tiny, tiny goals can be increased and the habit becomes better and better entrenched in you. Now, a really important part of creating good habits is to congratulate yourself. You really reminisce how you reach these goals. So now that I'm in my effort to become like Batman's body in a woman's figure, kind of a thing, every time I work out and do my 3 to 4 hour workout routine, and at the end of the week, I look back and I'm really happy. I congratulate myself. And I think, well, despite all my work and all what's happening in the world, I've dedicated 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week to be my best version physical-wise. So I reminisce about it. I think about it. And I congratulate myself. And you need to do it yourself. So if you have started including quarter piece of pepper to your healthy best version self diet, at the end of the week, look back and say, that's really great. I've done a good job. I'm happy about myself. Maybe once you've done some major changes, invite a friend to reward with yourself. Maybe you can go out and have a lovely meal, or go to see a movie, go for a nice run outside, go on a shopping thing, or go to a temple or church or mosque, whatever takes your fancy. And make sure you enjoy. A lot of people, when they start making changes to themselves, they don't reward themselves enough. They just think, okay, fine, I've done that, right? So, okay, that's enough. That's not enough. Our human mind needs congratulations. We congratulate other people all the time. Why don't you congratulate yourself? So every time little chips in your negative habits are made, congratulate yourself, go out and reward yourself. And when you do that, these newly learned habits become much more deeper. Now, we also find that people who are much more better at habit change has a particular way of looking at the world, and it's called a mindset. So when we say mindset, it's about the way a person looks at the world. Okay, so there are two kinds of people. One group is somebody who looks at the world in a fixed way. The other one is somebody who looks at it in the growth way. So a person who looks at the world, others, and themselves with a growth mindset is somebody who enjoys the process rather than the destination. The people who have a fixed mindset is somebody who doesn't like the process and is waiting for the destination. So, example, if I give you an analogy, say you're supposed to go to Anuradhapura or Jaffna or Gaul on a holiday. Are you a person who just hates the entire trip to Anuradhapura, Gaul or Jaffna and is waiting desperately to get to your final destination? If so, you may be a fixed mindset person. Then the growth mindset is somebody who enjoys the entire trip, via Dambulla or Kurunegala or Putlam or whichever road you're taking to go to Anuradhapura or Jaffna, and enjoys the travel, the moment in the car, the stopping at a wayside boutique to have that ginger tea and, a vade, and then getting there and then stopping at another place and having a chit chat with the passers-by, enjoys the process. That person is a person with a growth mindset. Researchers found out that growth mindset people are better able to inculcate good habits than the fixed mindset people. The reason is the growth mindset people enjoy the process. For example, I was a fixed mindset person many years ago, but overtraining my mind through techniques like this, I changed into a growth mindset person. So when I do my exercise, say 5 to 10 years ago, I would have disliked the whole exercise process and just waited for that ideal body I wanted. But now I've changed in a way where I actually enjoy the process of exercising, forget about what I become later on. And I've realized that when I have that particular growth mindset, I actually see better results and I look forward to exercising and enjoy that moment. So what I want you to know is, look at yourself. Are you a fixed mindset person or a growth mindset person? If you're a growth mindset person, this game is easier for you because you are more inculcated or more driven to habit change. You're at an advantage. But if you're a fixed mindset person, you can change. Just as I changed, I was a fixed mindset person too. So what you need to do is forget about setting huge goals for yourself as habit change. Put only tiny goals and enjoy the process. So for example, including pepper, a quarter piece of pepper in your new diet program or nutrition program. Enjoy eating the pepper rather than cursing the person who even grew that pepper tree, kind of a thing. Enjoy that. And once you start enjoying the activity of your new habit, that habit becomes more entrenched in you and it is so much easier to go this journey. Now, other than including new habits to ourselves, there are lots of us who needs to change bad habits. For many of us, it's not new habits, it's just overcoming bad habits that is a challenge, isn't it? So how do we do that? For example, say, maybe you smoke. Or maybe you gossip a lot about people. Or maybe you're a person who creates rumors about other people, not nice stuff, Or maybe you're a person who lies a lot. And now you have insight, like what I told earlier. You have insight that you don't want to smoke. You don't want to gossip. You don't want to create stories and rumors about people. You don't want to lie. You want to be a purer person, a better human being. Now, the problem is, if you start hanging around with the same people with whom you gossiped with, you made rumors of other people about, you learned lying from, you're not going to change. You really need to change your group. Now, that might seem harsh because maybe your friends, you might have to distance yourself from it. Because what happens is other peer influence is so significant for who we become. And most of you who have done psychology for your degree, you would know that our peer group is so significant on molding who you are. So if you hang around a bunch of people who venerate anger outbursts, who venerate prejudice, who venerate eating unhealthy, who venerate speed driving, what's going to happen is you're going to learn from them. If you want to now change because you have insight that this is not what I want to be, I want to be this better version of myself, one of the key things you need to do is distance yourself from these trigger people. And that's not going to be easy because these have been your friends or people you hang around with or the only options you have for people to hang around with for many months and even years. So what you could do is gradually distance yourself while trying to find people who resonate with what you want changed. So you include more new people in your life, the kind of people that you want to be like. For example, if somebody wants to be more financially independent, it goes without being said that hang around with people who loves borrowing from somebody, stealing from somebody, who's always taking loans and rolling money, is not going to be very useful because you're not going to learn ways in being financially independent. However, if you start hanging around with people who are very entrepreneurial, who are financially independent, who don't want to be a bother to other people financially, if you hang around with them, you will realize new habits, new ways of looking at the world, new ways of being yourself. And then you start changing. So therefore, if you want to overcome any bad habits, think for yourself. Who are the people who is perpetuating these habits in me? What are the environmental triggers that brings out the worst person I am? Like, for example, I know that for me, if I get my sinus headache, my tendency to get annoyed and maybe say a nasty word to somebody is that much more. So when I'm getting my sinus headaches, I try to avoid contacts with people because I don't want to be the kind of person who gets annoyed with people and say nasty words. So just as I would avoid people who I don't resonate with and who doesn't fit my ideal self, I also avoid environmental cues, which brings out the worst in me. So for example, if you're a person who wants to reduce and prevent use of alcohol, and you know that the party that you got invited to on Friday or Saturday is going to be lots of alcohol and you still are very partial towards it, and there's going to be a bunch of people who are there who's going to force you to drink something, it might be prudent to avoid that. Because while there's a whole bunch of people who will ask you to be in that drink, as well as you still like it, and it's going to cue you to go back on your habits that are still very young. So therefore, if you want to overcome bad habits, two things that you need to do is distance yourself from people who perpetuate and who encourage you towards bad habits. And number two, distance yourself and avoid situations, environmental situations that trigger your bad habits to the surface. The third thing is replace it with a good habit. Don't just stop the habit. Some people say, okay, I shall not have sugar from tomorrow onwards. So what I'm going to do when tomorrow comes, your sugar craving is going to pop up. Tomorrow you might, grind your teeth and not take sugar. What's going to happen day after tomorrow? And the day after tomorrow, and next week, and next month. It's very difficult, but something very, very set habit to just say, no, I'm not going to do that. And just, grind your teeth and wait. What is better is to replace it with a better habit. For example, since I was a child, I used to have chocolate or some form of sugar every day. And that's quite drastic. Every day, unless I was severely sick or something, every day. And then I realized that this is such an unhealthy thing to live with, especially sugar. It's not good for you as you get older. So stopping it was a no-no to me because it was such an ingrained topic. So what I did was, rather than using cane sugar, I started supplementing with other sweet, healthier ones like coconut sugar, or having my cup of tea with a date, with some sweetness, not as fun as cane sugars, teacups, but something. So I give myself something that appeases my bad habit. I don't totally deprive myself, but I don't give myself 100% to my bad habit. So therefore, consider when you want to overcome a bad habit, don't just stop it if it's going to be too traumatic for you. Replace it with a better habit. Like, for example, if you're a kind of a person who by the end of the day, because of whatever stresses that you've gone through, you're just having temper tantrums with everybody around you, and you know it's going to come up every day, and you want to overcome this, just telling yourself, I'm not going to get angry, it's not going to work because it's a very deep entrenched habits. What you could do is come evening, maybe you can go for a walk. Maybe you can do some journaling, write your feelings in a book. Maybe you can go for a jog. That way your energies gets channeled in a different direction. It's a better habit and you replace the old habit with a new one. That's how you overcome bad habits. Now, sometimes you might need to also be stern with yourself. I'm contradicting myself with what I told you earlier, but listen me out. It's called a bright line rule, where you do set some boundaries to yourself, which whatever happens, you decide, I'm not going to break that. Okay. So for example, again, let's say you want to adopt a healthier way of living. And you think, okay, fine, I love sugar. I need to have sugar every day. So it's going to be tough for me to stop having sugar. So therefore, I'm going to have other kinds of sweets which are similar to sugar, not as fun as sugar, but I'm going to have it anyway. And that kind of is a replacement of the habit. But other than that, you can also make what we call bright line rules, where you have a rule for yourself, which at any cost, you don't cross. Like, for example, for the last 4 years, one of my bright line rules for my health is that I do intermittent fasting. So I don't eat for maybe about 14 hours or 16 hours in a day. So I only eat in a window of 8 to 10 hours. And that's something I don't compromise. But during the time that I do eat, I have my sugar, I have my healthy stuff, and I also have like a treat myself, but I still stick to my intermittent eating program. That is a bright line rule that I don't break. And because I have done my bright line rule of not eating for 14 to 16 hours each day, as I keep on doing it, I realize I really love it because of the sense of well-being that I have got. So one other way that you can do to overcome your bad habit is also a bright line rule. For example, if you again say one of your bad habits is anger management issues, maybe you get angry. Maybe one of your bright line rules would be the moment you feel anger surging into your head, you set yourself a rule that you take 5 minutes away from the situation to do some breathing exercise, take time for yourself, to calm yourself down. You do it whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday. You do it every time. And you don't deviate from it. Okay? So therefore, if you want to, I'm going to summarize, if you want to overcome bad habits, there are 3 things you can do. Avoid people and environment cues which trigger your bad habit. Replace your bad habit with a good habit. Don't just stop it. And have a bright line rule. And as you keep on doing this over and over again, you will realize that these bad habits start reducing and new habits start becoming established. And then finally, in changing habits, what really helps are 3 characteristics in our personality. That is tendency to be perseverant, tendency to be self-regulating, and self-discipline. So perseverance is saying, you know what, I'm on this for the long haul. I want to have a better body. I want to eat healthy. I want to manage my anger. I want to study an X number of hours in a day. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to be in this for the long run. It's not 1 week program or a 1 month program. That's what you call perseverance. Just getting up and showing up every day. Even though it's tough sometimes. Some days are tough, some days are easy, but you show up for your day. That's what you call perseverance. Self-regulation is when your mind says, no, not today. I'm not going to do my fitness program. Or, today I'm going to just do junk food only. Or today I can just tell off my boyfriend or my sister or hit the dog. When your mind tells you to go back or regress, a person who is a self-regulator is somebody who can regulate those lower tendencies in his or her personality and says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give in to my impulses. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to do this. Of course, there'll be times that you fall. There'll be times where you cannot do your exercise for the whole 1 week or 2 weeks. Maybe you have been eating too much of sugar, though you are not wanting to do that. Maybe even one of your bright line rules have been broken for a few days. Though you had wanted to study for X number of hours in a day for 1 week, you're not able to do that. It's okay. As long as you get up each time you fall. Because every time you get up, each time you fall from your habits, you become stronger. It's like going to the gym. The first week, when you go to the gym, you won't see great changes in your body. Second week, maybe a little bit tiny bit, maybe like a little bit stronger. But as you keep on going, little by little, you will see that not only are your habits, new habits becoming more established, you will also see you're more persevering. You can self-regulate better. You're more self-disciplined. And these are fantastic personal qualities, not only for establishing new habits, but for you as a person in the long run for your life. And coming back to this point I told you about mental set or the mindset, fixed versus growth mindset. Establishing a growth mindset is so important. And one of the things that we could do is living in the present moment. And how do we live in the present moment? It's about keeping your mind into what you're doing. So whether you're in the washroom, washing your hair, texting your boyfriend, watching a teledrama, talking to your mother, watering the plants, walking from Kinsey Road to NHSL, studying, cutting your toenails, ironing your clothes, whatever activity you do, mundane and fun, keeping your mind on the activity you're doing. Many of us don't do that. For example, we may be texting somebody while thinking of the next chapter that you have to study. You may be washing your hair while scolding all the politicians at court to parliament. But you're actually nothing to do with them. You're supposed to be washing your hair, but you're thinking of all the politicians and the fuel prices and the gas shortages and the whatnot. Whilst you're watching TV, you're busy eating your food. While you're seemingly listening to your mother giving you advice, you're calculating the number of minutes for you to go and sit in front of the TV to watch your TV program. That's how we usually do. We live kind of a double game without living in the present moment. And that is so detrimental to us. If you want to inculcate new habits into your life and to establish them and maintain long term, and in order to do so, to develop the qualities of perseverance and self-regulation and self-discipline, you have to practice mindfulness, living in the present moment. And how do you do that? From the moment you get up in the morning until you go to sleep, you bring your mind from wanderings of the mind, from all these various fantasy thoughts that we have, or thinking of the past, or projecting about the future, to the present of activity you're doing. Mindfulness, you can Google that online as well, mindfulness practice. And finally, when we are in a fast track course to change our habits, we need to also bring joy into our life. And one such thing is, as I told you, is self-congratulations and rewarding yourself. But other than that, some more joy will keep you going. And gratitude is a fantastic way of bringing joy to our life. And how do you do that? Once, 1 to 3 times a week, before you go to sleep, consider 3 good things that happened to you that week. And these 3 good things doesn't have to be winning a lottery or meeting the man of your life or the girl of your life or getting a distinction for one of your exams. Because those are things that don't happen all the time, right? It happens once in a blue moon. But in a week, there may be certain small things which really impacted you, like that friend from school that called you after 5 years to say hi to you, or that beautiful rose that you saw while walking somewhere, or the kindness that you saw in a stranger's face when you ask that person for directions to go somewhere. Those are also things that uplift our mind. So when we say be grateful, and be grateful 1 to 3 times a week, and how do you do that? Reflect on 3 good things that happened to you that week. Think of all those things that you wouldn't have thought of earlier, the good things that happened to you, and really reminisce about it before you go to sleep. And then also think, how did I bring these good things into my life? You know, the fact that that stranger looked at you very kindly and showed you the right direction. Maybe he or she did that because I was also kind to him. I was spoken nice to this person. So I brought about joy. So therefore, before we stop today, I'm going to summarize what we spoke about today. We spoke about building great habits so that you will become the best version of yourself. And of course, these habits will change from your life, you know, from one decade to another. So what I valued when I was in my 20s to 30s to 40s is different, but that's fine. So we spoke that insight is so important if you want to change. Nobody will change in you, only you need to do that. And after you have insight, you need to feel really motivated to put that effort and time commitment. You know, people who have done great wonders in this world didn't just wake up one day and do a wonder. They worked for it. It's like that iceberg, you just see only a little bit, but underneath there's a huge lump of ice underneath. That's where the Titanic got collapsed. So we need to be like that. So for that, we need to have a lot of motivation. How do you become motivated to change to be the best version of yourself? Write to yourself, journal the best version you want to be, and project that. Have that as your ideal. And then we spoke about different kinds of ways in which we can change. So when you set goals for change, make sure that they're really tiny, they're micro, tiny habits so that you can't say no to doing it and then keep adding into it tiny bits. Then we spoke about living in the present moment. We spoke about gratitude, so various kinds of things. I gave my slides to Priyat. He might share those with you. So these are the kinds of different ways in which you could bring in new habits to yourself so that you start changing to be a much more pleasant and a pleasing self to you and to others. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Your words were very wholesome and refreshing. So now, guys, we would like to open up the platform for any questions you want to ask madam. Drop them in our chat box and I'll direct them to her.
And if somebody just wants to write directly to me, also that's possible, isn't it, Shan?
Yes, madam, that's also possible. Madam, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If we can't change our immediate environment or the people we associate with, any suggestions on that? Generally, how long do you have to maintain the change until it becomes integrated into our habits, and how to avoid relapsing?
Okay, so I'll ask the first question. Usually what research has shown is that we do 5 cycles before we can establish a change. So if you want to incorporate anger management or food change or fitness program, you might have a bit of failures about 4 times. And then only it becomes part of you. It won't be happen just overnight, which is fine, right? We can't suddenly become this fantastic version tomorrow. It only happens in movies, that kind of a thing. And usually, in order for a change to be really part of you and part of your psyche, it takes about 6 months and 1 day. That change has to be sustained for 6 months and 1 day. So for example, having a fitness routine, if you had done it faithfully for at least 6 months and 1 day, on and off, you might just drop off, but still, then that kind of a tendency of being interested in fitness could stay on with you for a long time as a habit rather than impulse. If you do it for 6 months and 1 day, that amount of duration. So in response to your first question, if you can't change triggers around you, like for example, say, I've had people who come and tell me, I really want to change my anger. I get angry all the time, even if I'm on the pavement, if somebody bumps into me, I'm about to kill them on the road, kind of a business. And then when we talk to them, they tell me that either their father is violent towards their mother, their father is violent towards them, or was violent towards them as children, and they go back home to a home life which is very angry and anger prone, or a community. And you can't just dump your family sometimes. You can't just walk away from your community because that's the only household that you have, isn't it? So that it's not easy. That's a problem. So what we tell those people is that as much as possible, given the small effort, small opportunity you have, to avoid those people, but it's not going to be easy to change when you're still in that mess, when you're still in that mess, because the problem is you keep on having role models of what you don't want to be like, but they're on your face. But what I've also seen is that some people saying that I'm with a bunch of people who are really losing themselves and I don't want to be there, but I can't leave them. But the more I stay with them, I realize I just don't want to be like them, because they really ruined their life and I don't want to be that. And that can be a motivator for some people also, you see. So it works both ways. There's another one. It says how to quit internet and gaming and mobile phone addiction. Difficult to live without internet in medical colleges, online lectures. Yeah. So again, that was a question. I just took that question. Somebody just wrote it. Again, it's small habits. Like for example, don't say, I'm not going to do internet tomorrow. I'm not going to do internet for 1 week, because that's not going to be self-sustainable in the long run. So for example, even I have this huge tendency to be into, because we're always, working 24 hours, emails come to us. And then once you check an email, it's so much easier to go to YouTube and check out a clip. Or then from YouTube, you just click on the Facebook app to see who has liked you, whatever. So then you need to be very clear as to what kind of person do I want to be. Somebody who's glued on the face to my smartphone, or somebody who uses my device for my growth. And once you know what you want, have those tiny goals. So for example, if you've been doing 4 hours of random searching and scrolling on YouTube and Facebook and gaming and whatnot, you can decide, well, for this week, I'll do only 3.5 hours. So you don't come down to 2 hours. It's just tiny changes. Or you would say, well, in the workday weeks, I will do 2 hours, but on Saturday, I will give my 4-hour slot. So you're not giving bad shocks to your system by going cold turkey. You're making small, tiny changes, pegging back. So 3.5 hours for 1 week. Next week will be 3 hours and 15 minutes only you'll be online. Then maybe in 1 week, you'll be 3 hours online, and then you kind of set it to 2 hours. And you think 2 hours is okay. And you stop there. So it's always tiny sub-goals. Okay.
Madam, we have one more question. Do we have to practice the new habit at the same time every day?
No, it must be very, very spontaneous, because if you're going to be really like you're set on a timetable as if we are in school, it's going to be really tedious to the mind. So, like for example, my exercise routine, I told you that I really just detest fitness stuff. Initially, when I got down to it, I thought I had to do it in the morning. And it became a little really strained, because if by any chance I have lectures in the morning and I can't do my fitness thing, that is really concern me. So then I thought, no, I'm going to like live in the present moment. And if I have a window of opportunities in the day, as if it's conducive to do my fitness thing, I'll do it. And then when I became more spontaneous and flowing with my usual life, I realized I could actually do more fitness stuff and enjoy it and get better results. So don't try to say, I'm going to do this study from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, and that's it. Because if you can't do it, you're going to feel really, really annoyed with yourself and the person who prevented you from doing it. So try to be flexible, but still keep to the number of hours you want to study, if that was what you had, the habit you wanted to change.
Madam, I think that's all. I'm not getting any more questions, I think.
I think there's another question here. Let me just check here. Okay, that's all right. That's Priya's short quiz.
Okay, madam. I think that's all. So,
Okay.
madam, I would like to thank you on behalf of the entire club. Thank you for making time for us today. And everyone who's tuned in, please take a moment to fill the small quiz we have for you in the chat box. When you fill it, your attendance will be marked and you'll be eligible for the certificate we'll be issuing. And I think we can wind up today's session, madam. Thank you.
Okay, may I leave?
Yes, madam. Yes. But I think we're done.
Inviting.
Of course, madam. Have a pleasant night.